let's look at 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 7. It says, and at that time Hananiah the seer, that's the prophet, came to Asa king of Judah and said to him, because you have relied on the king of Syria and not relied on the Lord your God, therefore the armies of the king of Syria have escaped out of your hand. We're not the Ethiopians and the Luban, not a huge army with very many chariots and horsemen, yet because you relied on the Lord, he delivered you from their hands. The eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts are loyal to him. In this you have done foolishly, therefore you shall have wars. Okay? So what's the message here? So Hananiah comes to Asa the king and said, because you relied on the size of Syrian's army, that you knew you can take them, you didn't go to God. You relied on your own strength to fight the Syrians, and they're going to escape from your hands. We're not the Ethiopians and the Luban, much bigger, and you had to rely on God, and he destroyed them for you, right? Then he says, the eyes of the Lord run to and fro through the whole earth to find perfect hearts that he can show himself strong in their lives, okay? Because Asa, the king, relied on his own strength in the small battle, he was now going to have battles himself. Why? He's separated from God. God wants all of our life, the small things and the big things. He doesn't want us wearing out our knees, praying when things are bad and not when things are good. Okay? That's what he's saying here. He's saying, I want you to rely on me all the time. I want to be one with you all the time. And so he's saying here that a perfect heart, if you look at verse 9, it says, the eyes of the Lord run to and fro through the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts are loyal to him. In that you have done foolishly. What was the foolishness? Relying on your own strength. Therefore, from now on you shall have wars. You know, we looked at it in first session 1. God wants a relationship with us all the time. And therefore, in the big and the small and everyday things. I mean, have you ever prayed for a parking spot? Have you ever said, God, just give me some favor here and open a parking spot? Christmas time, right? You know, so, and I put in my notes here, Isaiah 31 says, woe unto those that go down to Egypt for help and rely on horses, who trust in chariots because they are many, and horsemen because they are very strong, but who do not look to the Holy One of Israel, nor seek the Lord. You know, we have to look at that, and we have to understand that. We're one. We're one. That, you know, it's not like we're bothering him. He's telling us, I want you to get to this level of commitment with each other. One last one. Go to James 5. Chapter 5, verse 1. It says, come now, you rich, weep, howl for your miseries that are coming upon you. Now, he's not talking to the world. He's talking to a church. He's a pastor, right? He says, come now, you rich. This is a category of people that have abundant wealth. Weep and howl that your misery that it's coming upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Well, how are riches corrupted? And how are, they probably have the best suits in the world, right? Handmade suits, right? Your gold and your silver are corroded. Gold and silver corrode when they sit. So they sit for a long time. So that's saving them. And your corrosion will be a witness against you and will eat your flesh like a fire. You have heaped up treasures for the last days. Indeed, the wages of the laborer who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, cry out, and the cries of the reapers have reached the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath. You have lived on earth in pleasure and luxury, and have fattened your heart as in the day of slaughter. Okay? What does that mean? You know, we're the richest country in the world, you know? And James, you know, puts it straight. If we are one, and you're going to see this in session 10, then none of us has wealth on our own. The wealth that we have is for the kingdom. It really is. Sounds communist, but it's not. It's a benevolent king who said, okay, I'm blessing you, and I'm blessing you with wealth. And because I want you to look at your wealth not as a means of just pleasure, you can have it, but as a means of how do I enhance the kingdom. I had this happen to me it was a couple of years ago. So we needed funds in the ministry, and I made an appeal, and I sent out some emails, and a guy sent me $1,000. Okay, good, nice check, right? Well, later that week, we're at a car party where they have these old cars and food, and he's buying $5,000 boxes of cigars and handing them out. They're burning it up at this function, and I'm going, God, how easy would it have been, because he's worth a lot, to cut a check for $5? And here's the thing. We have to understand the paradigm that no matter how much is in the bank, no matter how many zeros, we're going to die. And we're going to be on one slab, and I don't want to get graphic, but the poorest man in the world is going to be on the other, and it really doesn't matter what happened here at that point. All that matters is what they did for the Lord after that, right? During this time period, between the dashes of birth and death. And so the wealth you have to understand, and I tell my people all the time, if you have $10 million, certainly don't die with that much. You don't need it. You can start giving. You can start making, widows comfortable. You can start making single moms comfortable. You can start, making elderly comfortable. You can take that wealth and millions of it, because going from 10 to 12 isn't God's economy. Going from 10 to 12 and then back to 8 is God's economy, right? And that's what James is saying here. That separates us from God. And you say, well, how? Well, look at what it's saying. It's going to be an indictment against you when you stand before